Welcome to an Art Toolkit demo. My name is Maria Coriel Martin. I'm the founder of Art Toolkit, and I'm so delighted to be joined today with Bethan Burton, artist, nature journaler, environmental educator from Australia, Brisbane, Australia. Hi, Bethan.
Hi, Maria. Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, well, it's such a pleasure. You are involved in so many wonderful things from founding International Nature Journaling Week. You host a nature journaling podcast, teach folks of all ages to engage with nature journaling. And you also just create these expressive and colorful, gorgeous journals and sketches. And I'm personally really excited to learn more about you and your work and do a little practice myself today.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one too. And I've been specializing in garden journaling. So we're going to talk a bit about specifically garden journaling, which is a form of nature journaling, but with our cultivated
Mhm.
ecosystem.
Well, it's such a nice time of year to get excited, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, about garden journaling. And hopefully, at all times of year for everyone in different climates, there's wonderful opportunities to get out and see what's happening. And that's so much of a nature journaling, I think, is that curiosity of, hey, what's going on? And can you share a little bit about your journey of getting into nature journaling and this educational realm you've been really expressing yourself in?
Yeah, so I kept my first nature journal when I was a student. So I studied ecology and conservation biology, and we had to keep field journals, which was a scientific leaning nature journal. And then about 10 years after that, I started nature journaling for myself. And I did that because I was going through a period of ill health and I couldn't do a lot out in the world. But I could step out into my backyard. And what I did in my backyard was just pay close attention to what was there. And it turns out that what is in a suburban backyard is actually incredibly fascinating. And I remember watching a family of crows build a nest and, ants wandering by and all the little things that are happening in a suburban backyard. And it just engaged me so much that it helped. At that time, I had a chronic illness, and it took me out of my head and into my body.
Mhm.
And it was such a healing practice that I just felt at that time, this is what I need to be doing. And I just started posting what I was doing online. And then I just found this amazing community, and it's become such a beautiful way to stay connected with not only with nature, but with people who love nature and creativity. So that's how I started out. And then it's just grown and grown. And now, as I said, I'm starting to sort of specialize in garden journaling because I love gardening. For me, gardening is something that brings me so much joy.
Mhm.
This way of creatively documenting the garden helps me, it helps me become a better gardener, and it helps me
Mm.
keep a creative cycle. The more I nature journal about my garden, the more I want to grow amazing things in the garden. And then it's a beautiful spiral. Both things, gardening and garden journaling, are feeding off each other.
Oh, I love just so much of what you shared because I mean there's so many ways when we think about adventures or going out with art and just our backyard. It's what we pay attention to that can open our eyes, and this idea of a micro adventure can be just stepping outside your door or even looking outside your window to pay attention and not having to do far-flung
Yes.
voyages or even take really long amounts of time on something that we can kind of take these small doses of attention to be present. And something I'm really passionate about is this idea of art as a tool, and that tool for connection, tool for observation, and of just going out with a few simple supplies. And what are some of the supplies you like to take with you when you go out in your garden?
Yeah, well, so of course, and this is just a lovely synergy. This isn't like Pocket Toolkit advertisement, but I've been using Pocket Toolkit for 10 years. We were talking about this is my demi palette, and this is what I take with me. It's beautiful and portable. I take this. It's in fact a Rosemary and Co. Travel water brush. Sorry, not a water brush, a normal brush. Lots of nature journalers use water brushes, but I prefer the old school. And I
Mhm.
take a little water container with me
Mhm. Mhm.
and a fine liner. Whoops. A fine liner is my trusty tool. Sometimes a pencil, but mostly these are just my simple simple tools. And when we're doing some garden journaling together today, you'll see them in action. But yeah, I keep it really simple. I think that we can get really excited about art supplies and pack our bags full of stuff that doesn't get used in the end, especially if our outing is going to be, snuck into a busy day.
Hmm.
We can
Hmm.
take all our tools out there, but I always come back to these few simple tools.
I love that. And just trying to make them really accessible. And I think often about that saying of like the camera you have is the best camera, or the
Yes,
best camera you have is the one with you, and the best sketching supplies you have are the ones with you. So they're
absolutely.
ready to use. Well, wonderful. And I'll just mention for those of you watching, I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. So if you've got any questions anytime live, I'll do my best to relay them to Bethan. And we've also had so much fun in seeing all the different all the different places that folks are watching from. So if you're just hopping on, please share where you are. And it's fun, all the different many parts of the United States. And I think we've got some international friends too from Canada and Mexico. And we're just so glad to have you here. And as Bethan has spoken already to the community that she's been feeling from her art, we're just so grateful for this big creative community and really appreciate having you all here. Well, Bethan, should we pull up your desktop
Yeah,
and you can
please.
show us a little bit of the work that you've been up to and some of your approach to nature journaling. I can't help but notice some of the beautiful things on your wall behind you.
I'm crazy about color. Actually, I know you've talked to Jane Blundell, and this was from her watercolor course, and then just color everywhere. It's my thing.
Oh, wait, we like color too. All right, well, I'll go ahead and pull up your desktop and let's see here.
Yeah,
There we
thank you.
go.
Thanks, Maria.
Absolutely.
I'd love, I want to do a little bit of actual sketching today, but what I want to do first is to show you my garden journal, some pages of the journal, and some of the things, there's like infinite amount of things that you can look at when you're garden journaling, but I want to show you some of the things that I focus on. And I think the most important thing that I try never to forget is to put the date because the date anchors you in time. And when you're gardening, it is very much a cyclical thing that you're going to come back to again and again. And so having the date is so important. And I also try to measure weather information and moon cycle. And this was July last year. I was measuring it in this way. But then I got, I changed it up and started measuring it in this way, which is a lovely kind of visual way to see it. I actually was inspired for this one by an artist called Miriam Morrill, who is amazing at displaying visual information. So keeping track of data is really wonderful in your garden journal. Another thing that I love to keep track of is garden maps. And so this is what I do. I draw a map. I'm very lucky to have like a bit of a space that I can put some garden beds in. I know that a lot of people uh, don't have space for a garden, but this method of garden journaling can be done with your just in any cultivated space. So a pot plant on the back of on your windowsill can be garden journaled. But I keep track of my garden beds this way, and then I can say, oh, okay, I put potatoes in bed two, and then I can keep information like that. This is the same garden map, but with the pH. So I went along and I pH tested all the things in my garden. And these ways of creatively capturing the information is just so helpful. This is another one where I am keeping track of what I put into the garden bed. So this is a list of the things I planted. Sorry, this is a list of things I want to plant or the seeds that I have. This is the months in which they should go in the ground. And there's dates and how many germinated and when they germinated, how many I put in the soil. So this kind of record keeping is just so wonderful for helping you become a better gardener. Another thing that I love to document is just garden visitors, and that's often spiders or insects, mushrooms that pop up. These things are just so wonderful to celebrate, birds that come by. Um, and another thing is to document the successes and to learn from the challenges. So this one, I was so excited. To put dahlias in for the first time. My friend Karina is a dahlia fanatic, and she gave me the excitement about dahlias, so I put that in. And then this was my little Polaroid to celebrate my first dahlias, and they came up, and then the
Oh no.
chickens. So I've written chickens, dug up the dahlias, I've replanted them, and added a fence. So you can document your successes and your challenges, and then next time round you can know what to, you get better each year as the cycle goes round. I wanted to show
Oh,
you one last page, which was another way of celebrating is just to make a list of the things that you're harvesting, and just a page like this just makes me so happy because it's like the richness of what's in the garden and the color and the excitement of putting that on the page. Just I find it's just like I call it shimmering joy. I guess you've had this feeling when you go out into nature or into a garden where you just feel it. You feel it inside yourself. And when I am gardening like this, I can read this here that I've written some time ago. Being in the garden is giving me intense joy at this moment. Things are flourishing, and I love watching things change day by day. So for me, it's about growing the garden, but it's also about growing that sense of peace and joy inside myself. And it just, every time I'm out there with my garden journal, that's what I'm feeling. So that's my motivation, is just to feel that, to feel the wonder and to feel the excitement and things growing. And yeah. So
oh my goodness.
should we
Well, wait. We have some questions.
okay,
I have many
question.
questions, and
Okay.
been some questions posed. What a wonderful tour, first of all, of your journal. It's so expressive. Got folks saying, "Wow, art with data is also so fun." And so, yeah, a few questions to start. One
Sure.
is, can you let us know kind of the scale of your sketchbook and what the paper
Yeah.
is?
Yeah, so this is one of these sides is A4. So for folks in the US, I think that's around a letter size, but maybe just a bit bigger. And
Hmm.
so um, it's big, it's biggish, but it's small enough that I can put it on my lap outside. Yeah.
And then another question is, I really appreciate some of the consistency you have with some things. Like it looks like you've developed a really sweet stack for your dates to like write your dates
Yeah.
in a little similar way. Um, and I guess what's my question with this? To what extent do you have sort of like repeating elements that you find are helpful for you with your journaling?
Yeah, the date, as I said, is super important.
Mhm.
Um, I often just do um, color swatches. I find color swatches to be something that comes up repeatedly. And I'm not very, I guess I'm not an organized personality. And so, although overall, I feel like the pages come together in the end. I don't have any sort of organization, so I don't say box here, box there. What I do is it just grows. And so I'll start, the weather information and the tracking is important. And then, something caught my attention. And so I put it there, and then there's a space there. And then again, you'll notice the color swatches. I find the date color swatches often recur. But in this particular journal, I find I've been organizing it by month. So I'll start the month, and then I'll just document what happened that month. And
Mm.
so it kind of grows organically like that as the month goes by. These are the things that I've been looking at that particular month. Um, if I might start a page that, seeds were just drawing my attention. These are Madagascar beans that I grew, and they're
Oh,
just so they just want to be drawn, and these nasturtium seeds as well. But then the next month will come up, and then yeah, so the month kind of anchors it, and then it just grows from there. I'm not very I'm not an organized person.
oh, well, I love that you're returning to like the same page on different dates. It seems like
Yeah,
then the you really get a sense of the time passing, and I love seeing like the different elements come together. So you may
yeah,
not
and
call yourself
then
organized, but the end result is just really tells a
but
story in an approachable way, it looks like.
yeah, and returning to the same page, then say I do a ladybird on this day, and then I do an eggplant on that day, whatever it is, then it builds up a picture of that month. And so, yeah, it comes together in the end, even without sort of forward planning.
Another question is, do you use any templates for your graphs?
Um, this one, do you mean the tables?
Yeah,
The
I think so. Yeah, for your tables.
I can't remember if I used a template for this. I think I was just looking on the back of the seed packets and thought, oh, this information's important. And then I think I just drew this one up
Hmm.
from what I saw as important. I really love drawing seed packets. It's a really fun way to make to just tie in the whole cycle. Another way to do it is to chop up the seed packets and paste them in. So this was one, this obviously got stood on or something. But uh, yeah, just paste them in, and you can paste the whole packet, or you can chop the top off. And uh, yeah, actually, this was the start of another journal, which maybe got wet or something, so I pulled the whole thing out. But it doesn't have to be neat and tidy, and I hope that's coming through because yeah, it just has to be a record and it's for you. So although some loveliness might come out of it in the end, it doesn't have to be a work of art. And in fact, the more it is a document, a working document, the more you're going to get out of it as a gardener. I love
Mm.
this one because I had two types of kale growing, so I was thinking, um, what's different about these two? And the color was obviously different, but some of the frills on the edge were different, and it was really fun to do this. And this is a cute little way of not having to not having to color in the whole thing.
Oh, it's great. It reminds me of a magnifying
Yeah,
glass.
yeah. A
Yeah.
magnifying tool is an amazing thing to take with you into the garden as well, because as we were talking about, backyards, you just get down and down and down, and suddenly you're in another world, and a magnifying tool is wonderful for helping that.
So like day in the life of Bethan going into your garden, do you have a little routine for yourself, or is this where you're thinking, oh, I'm going to step out and take, 15 minutes with my journal? What helps your practice with your journal?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question because life is really busy. I'm the mum of a young son who's at school, but he requires a lot of my time and energy, and so I do usually mum stuff during the day, and when after school, uh, I find that my rhythm is that I go out in the late afternoon, and I just love the sun going down and just the peace of the garden in the afternoon. And I might take my journal out with me, or sometimes I just take a notebook and I'll write some stuff down and maybe take some photos. So these are ones that um, this is interesting information. So 12:30 p.m. the flower is fully open. 3:40 p.m. the flower is closed. So I just had my camera with me and I noticed, oh, that's interesting. And in fact, these flowers only open very briefly. And so I did those from photographs later. So you can take just a notebook out, scribble down things, take photos, and sort of put it together later in the evening when the kids are in bed, or whenever you have a little
Hmm.
bit of time. So I tend to do it in the late afternoon, or just whenever I can snatch a moment.
Oh, you make this so accessible. I really like how free it is and your emphasis that these journals are really for you and
Yes.
individuals. We've got some questions. Your journal lays flat, which folks are noticing is really nice. And can you share what kind of paper it is or the brand? We can
Yeah,
post it
so
in
this
the
um
follow-up. Oh, it's a Stillman and Burn. We love Stillman and
Hillman and
Burn.
Byrne Delta series, and the pages are quite thick, almost like cardboard, but so you can see that it's quite thick. And so it's lovely because, as you know, it's really hard to find a sketchbook say I love using cold press watercolor paper that's a bit bumpy, but it's really hard to do pen work on. So you have to find a balance between those things. This is smooth paper, so it seems to be a good balance between being able to write and it takes watercolor really well.
Well, these are just so inspiring. And I know today you shared a few images and wonder how you might guide us through doing a little
Yeah.
exploring along with you.
Absolutely, I'd love to. So let me flip to a blank page. So what I thought we could do today, I'll show you a page from a previous journal. This was just a little celebration of winter. So here on the other side of the world, we have winter. This was June 1st. So winter begins today. This was some time ago, but I really like this little box idea. We can do something like this today, and I thought we'd just use those three images in the uh, those three reference images just to build up something similar to this. It won't be as finished as this because we don't have all the time, but yeah, does that sound good?
Oh, that sounds delightful. And just a reminder to everyone watching, these images that we'll be using for reference are linked to in the description of this video. So there's 3 of them.
So I'm going to start off. I'm going to use a pencil for this because, and I'll show you why. I'll show you this again actually. One of the things I really love is drawings that break the box, the bounding box. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw with a pencil and then we'll fill in the bounding box afterwards. There's real value in drawing with a pen. And I know that I've taken one of your classes for Wild Wonder Nature Journaling Conference, and I know that you know the value of drawing straight with a fine liner so that you don't get too finicky. But for this, I'm going to use a pencil because I want to be able to uh, break the box and um, and draw the fine liner after. So I'm going to draw a few boxes.
And I just got a question if you have a preference with your pencil, like a softer lead or a harder lead or any.
I usually use a 2B.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just because it's kind of versatile, but no brand. This was actually, oh, I feel a bit warm and fuzzy using this because it was my grandfather's on my paternal, so my paternal grandfather, my paternal grandmother and grandfather met at art school. And um, so I inherited this box of very, very old pencils. So this is the first time I've used it and it feels nice to use that.
Oh, that's lovely.
All right, so we've got some boxes. We're going to put 3 things here and I'm going to write in here. As you can see on this, the lettering just adds something. And, you know, this is just a way of celebrating. So say, I really love the idea of celebration. So say um, you've got a garden full of things growing. Um, Documenting them, it's just a creative celebration, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the pea flower. So this is a snow pea, and I'm going to walk the talk, Maria. I'm going to use a fine liner directly onto this box, and I'm going to be drawing the pea flower. So I'm going to just do a little contour drawing of this pea flower. And then we can pull it all together with the bounding boxes in the end. One of my favorite ways to start a nature journal page or a garden journal page is to do a simple blind contour drawing. A lot of my pages start that way. But here I'm just going back and forward, looking at the reference photo. And these kind of little simple things, little simple sketches, they're just a way of connecting. So whether or not you turn out some perfect sketch. I don't believe in perfection. I really, really don't. But um, we're not aiming for perfection. We're aiming for connection. And so the more I draw my garden, the more I know it, the more I learn about it. And any sketch you do is working towards that. It's working towards you knowing more about your garden. I want to reiterate that garden journaling is about journaling our cultivated spaces. So whatever uh, plants you have in your care you can draw with your garden journal. So it literally might be sprouts on your kitchen counter, but that's a beautiful thing to get to know more about the plants in your care, because having a garden is a privilege. I'm drawing these little tendrils, and can you see they've broken the box? I think breaking the box is really cool. So what I'm going to do is um, I'm going to draw the box now, but I'm going to draw it around the bits that are breaking out.
Oh, I love that breaking the box. It gives it a little more energy and whimsy and dimension.
I absolutely love the word whimsy. I just think we need more whimsy. We need more whimsy in our lives. And you're
Mhm.
totally, so I'm rubbing out that box now. Whoops. And there's our piece. So I'm going to jump to, and we'll do some coloring soon. But I'm going to jump to the tomato, and I'm going to put the tomato in this box here. So again, I'm going to break the box with the tomato. I'm going to start with this little green tomato on the side here. So these are all from my garden, but not this month. Uh, Interestingly, those of you in the Northern Hemisphere and us down here, we're actually gardening at the same time, even though we're in opposite seasons, because I tend to take the summer off my veggie garden because it's too hot.
Mm.
You're taking the winter off, but we're taking the summer off. So this right now is actually a really exciting time for the garden. It's time to get growing again, start planting, look, pouring over seed packets and uh, getting ready to go again. So that's this is an exciting time, although we're going into autumn.
Lots of promise.
Yes, so much promise, although we've had a lot of rain. I feel like the landscape is just sodden at the moment.
One
So
artist, friend of ours named Nishant Jain, who does a lot of people sketching and urban things, talks about long lines for contour sketches. And I love your sort of confident long lines as you're drawing your
oh, that's
tomatoes.
interesting. Tell me more about long lines.
Just like keeping your pen on the paper for a long
Okay.
line. So
Yeah.
for me, it's sort of bridge the gap of like a continuous contour drawing toward versus just like using it as a sketching approach to
Mm.
making your lines nice and long. And I've
Mm.
enjoyed that approach.
I like that. Okay, so you can see I've broken the box here. I'm going to go again.
Here's a question from one of our folks watching. Do you eat everything you grow or share with others?
Yeah, I love my favorite thing. So I grow a lot of salad things. One of my favorite things is to go out into the garden and pick a salad. And just there's nothing like it. You go back in and eat what came out of the garden. We also, as you saw um, with the dahlias, we have some chickens that roam around the garden. So we get eggs from them, and just being able to, have lunch from the garden is honestly spectacular. And then whatever, if we have a surplus, we'll share it. There's a beautiful thing. So I'm doing this cornflower now, as you can see. There's a beautiful thing in my community started by a friend of mine, and it's called the Edible Exchange. And so if you have a surplus of something, it's a little roadside stall basically, and you can uh, go in there and put in your surplus and take something that someone else had. So someone else might have a surplus of oranges, and then you might have armfuls of spinach, and so you can swap it out, which is always really fun.
More of that community you've been talking about.
Oh, honestly, Maria, community is where it's at. I think, especially, when in this time when people are feeling sort of disconnected and isolated, I think community is absolutely where it's at.
Agreed. Yeah.
I've got a lot of amazing friends that I've made through, internet friends that I've made through nature journaling, and we had the great fortune of meeting up with some of them, and it's like internet friends come to life in real life. Most amazing thing. So I'm very, very small. I'm a small person. I am almost, but not quite 5 foot tall. And I met up with another friend, a dear internet friend uh was who is also very small, and it was like it was the most joyous meeting because we were like, "You're small, I'm small." Because you can't, you have no reference on the internet.
Well, I had to write down what you said, that we're aiming for connection, not perfection.
Yes.
It's just a lovely.
Yes. Connection with the garden, connection with nature, and connection with each other. So I am going to keep this one inside the box. And I am going to, in this box, in this other one that I showed you, you can see that I wrote Winter Begins Today. But you can write anything that helps you celebrate and feel connected to this particular set of garden um, garden things, garden friends. But in this box, I'm just going to write grow because this isn't any particular harvest. It's just going to be a celebration of growing. So in whatever weird lettering you like, I love lettering. I think it's gorgeous. I'm not that practiced at making great letters, but I'm just gonna give it a go, and it always looks great. So I invite you to write whatever you want in your journal, but it's beautiful to see how the lettering adds something. It adds something, and depending on what letters you use, but you could say that it adds whimsy. Let's just say whimsy as much as. So in a second, I'm gonna pull out my palette and fill in some of these colors, and we can talk about color because it's a really big passion of mine. I had many, many years making art, and I I've always felt like I was kind of just winging it with the color. And then I learned a little bit about color theory and I realized two things. I realized it's not that hard, and that it becomes intuitive, and being able to find the right color is it's easy once you know a few tips and tricks. And the other thing that I learned is the more you know about color, the smaller and smaller your palette can be. Um, I've got this little demi palette, but um, I could have half of these colors. I could honestly just have three colors and be completely fine. So let's do some color mixing. Are there any questions before we get into it? All right. Can you see my?
I was just going to say that I think, of course, we're all going to be curious if you might show us the colors you have in your palette.
Yeah. Yeah. So these ones, these six is a split primary, so a warm and cool. And I can say exactly what they are if that's helpful, or I can just say that.
Why don't you let us know, and then I will go ahead at the end of the demo, and we can post the colors in the video. So for those of you who want to come back and refer, we'll add notes of Bethan's supplies.
Yeah. So if I can remember correctly, this is New Gamboge. I think this might my warm yellow. Um, Hansa Yellow Light is my cool yellow. Ultramarine, Phthalo Blue, ever useful Phthalo Blue. Um, Queen Magenta, I think, and this one's called Scarlet Lake, which is what I call just Fire Engine Red. This one's Buff Titanium. So as I said, these are the ones that get used. These ones are just there because there was extra space, and I rarely use them, but they're there anyway. This is Buff Titanium. This is Perylene Green, and this one is Neutral Tint, I think. But as I say, the more I got into color mixing, the more I realized I just don't need lots of colors anymore. Okay, let's add some color to this sketch. So let's start with the cornflower just because it's the most obvious colorful place to start. So I'm going to start with ultramarine, and it's not quite that, is it? It's that, but it's not quite that. So I'm going to add a tiny touch of magenta here. See if we can get somewhere close. So I've overshot. I think that's a little bit too purple, but what I'm going to do is I love to test. Actually, that's a good match for the color. So I'm going to test it out, but make color swatches here on the side as I go. So you can test them out. If it's not quite right, it doesn't matter. So actually, I'm just going to fill in this whole section with this purple that I've mixed and can darken up some of the areas. The cornflowers, honestly. So this is something that happens to me every day in growing season when I go out. You go out and you've got you're just ready. Your curiosity is open, your mind is open, your heart is open, you're out there. And every day something will make me gasp. And that's it. That's where it's all that's why I do it. It's the joy of it's the joy of that moment when you go out and something makes you amazed. And I remember going out and seeing this cornflower and just having that moment of, wow, look at that. Look what's happened there. So I'm again testing out, instead of testing on a separate page, I'm just testing, oh, does that look right? Yeah, that looks kind of right. So I'll pop it here on the stem of this cornflower. So you can see I mixed that up with the colors I have. I do have a Perylene green, but I almost never use it and don't usually need a green on my palette. So I'm going to deepen up some of these colors.
Oh, Bethan, that's coming together so quickly. And I just wanted to ask one question we had. What was the eraser you used?
Oh, it's just a standard something or other from I don't really know. It's just a regular one. I did have a kneadable eraser, but I find that they pick up like lint and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They turn into kind of chewing gum in your palate. So I just have it's just any old standard
I
ray.
just love how that color, just that simple wash of color, just already your page is so lively.
Yeah, it is amazing, and it's beautiful to see just how quickly, all of us have lives that if we let it would always be too hard to find the time. But if we realize that you can really pull something together in a very short time, um, then it becomes accessible. And then you don't, and the good thing about the garden journal is, I don't know if you've had this before, but the feeling like oh, I need to make something, I need to make a full spread, a finished spread. Um, but with the garden journal, because you're just going out there and just doing one thing, it becomes accessible because you can draw a ladybird in a few minutes and then it's done and then you can move on to the next thing and over time over that month you build up your page. So while that's drying I am going to come in and put blacken those little stamen or whatever they are there, but once it's dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over. Let's jump to the tomatoes so that we can get some of that beautiful red color in there. For this, I'm going to start with my Scarlet Lake, so my Fire Engine Red. And I'm just going to put it down here. What I'm going to do is I can see those beautiful shiny spots there. I'm just going to paint around them. So that, because the main feature here is just how shiny and delicious they look. So building up this richness of color takes time. You have to wait for it to dry, but we'll just do what we can in this moment together. I'm so happy to be here, Maria. Thank you for this invitation.
Oh, it's such a fun pause in the day too to just take a moment and paint. And I love what you were saying about the accessibility of the garden journal, that you're building it up over multiple days or even a month for a page. So just it's really the cumulative practice of attention from a few little sketches coming together.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's low pressure. We don't need more pressure.
We don't need more pressure. I agree. I mean, so much of this too is just for me, it's one of our ways to play. And I think
Yeah.
that's where that idea of whimsy, of this whole practice should be an opportunity for us to play with color and play with our gardens and play with our
Abs
art supplies.
yeah, I love the word play. I think that we as adults need more play. I think that life gets wholly too serious and bringing play into life in whatever way is so important. So I've mixed this green. It's kind of a light green. I'm just going to go over the stems. While this is drying, I'm going to go over the stems here. And I mean, you can't get hung up on perfection. You can't have perfect play. That's like doesn't make sense. And so taking out perfect that this sort of perfectionism trap by playing is just such a freeing thing because perfectionism, I mean, perfection doesn't exist clearly, but this sort of striving to make something good or worthy of showing someone else, it takes the fun away and it disconnects. Whereas we want to connect. So yeah, play is super important. These are very juicy and wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump up here and we'll do some here and then we'll come back down. I'm
I
going to
like
go
that,
back.
showing the value of working on more than one thing at once
Yeah.
too, where you can jump around, I think is really helpful.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to get rid of this orange. This demi palette is amazing. The mixing space, um, you have to sometimes like do a lot of mixing and remixing just in this little space, but it's worth it for the portability.
It's definitely one of my favorite sizes. We made it in part because I was like, it would be so cute.
It's
And I'm constantly surprised at just the amount of paint it can carry. And
yes, that's the thing because these are, although the base is small, these are the same size as in the other palettes. So um, you're not really scrimping, especially um, when you know a little bit of color theory and know how to quickly mix things. Um, you you're not missing out on anything.
Well, gosh, Bethan, if you bought your first palette from us 10 years ago, it was probably made by me.
Like literally squeezed into the pan by you.
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
Oh,
and assembled, all the little palette components assembled and shipped by me. So thanks for sticking around.
that makes me really happy, my goodness. So by doing this thing on the side here with the little color swatches, you get to test your colors, but you also just add another sort of visual element to the whole thing, which I think is really nice. I just love color swatches. I think they are a wonderful way, a little snapshot um, of the garden, of a moment. Yeah,
I like
I'm
that they're
trying.
part of the process too, and you don't need to hide that process.
Yeah, yeah. It's like showing your workings doing a maths problem or something. I'm just thinking of you at the start of Art Toolkit, squeezing all the paints into the palette. It just makes me so happy.
Yeah, well, 10 years ago, I was pregnant, and it was my little side job
That's
to do, and
amazing.
we were even living in Seattle at the
Yeah.
time. So come a long
Wow.
way, and shout out to the whole Art Toolkit team now. I'm just so
Yeah.
grateful for everyone for the support and helping the work as we've grown. It's just a pleasure.
What a
We've
big...
got a question with your paints. What brand you use, or if you have a preference.
Yeah, I mostly use Daniel Smith. I think all of these are Daniel Smith except for the Scarlet Lake and the Quin Magenta is also the two reds are Winsor and Newton, which are I think they're harder to get in the US, but they're like the main brand here. Um, so I find Daniel Smith paints like really vibrant and I like that. Um, but yeah, I just you get into a habit with certain colors, don't you?
Yeah, you were talking about color mixing, and I think that's where it feels intuitive of getting to know
Yeah,
which colors come
yeah,
together
you
and
really
then
know.
kind of your shorthand. Uh-huh.
You start to know how that particular color works, and so it feels like an old friend, I guess. So I'm jumping back to the to our tomatoes just to add a bit of depth.
Well, I'm curious if you've got any like garden favorites, like a favorite plant or flower or something that I'm already sensing that you love everything, but if you have a couple little
Yeah,
gems that you
I
bring
do.
you extra delight.
Yeah, I really do. I love nasturtium flowers. They are just so hardy. They pop up by themselves. Do you know what I love? I love I call them garden volunteers. So the ones that are just so hardy you don't have to plant them again and again. They just pop up again next year. And when the nasturtium flowers pop up, I just feel it's like, hello, old friend. I just love it. And they're so bright and I go back to them again and again and again. Um, so nasturtiums I would say are my favorites. But I love painting seeds. I love painting um flowers. I actually plant a lot. So mine is a veggie garden, but I plant a lot of flowers for the pollinators and for myself because when I go out there and I see flowers, I just feel uplifted. Um, so that's what I do. I, I love planting extra flowers for myself and for the birds and the bees. Do you have a favorite thing to cultivate, Maria?
Nasturtiums, I think are gorgeous. I love scarlet runner beans
Ooh,
because they're so they just grow so huge. We used to grow just big tripods of them, and
yeah.
our school across the street will grow like a teepee style out of them, and
Yes.
they're bright, bright red flowers.
Mhm.
And then the beans, like seeing the seeds you're sketching.
Yeah.
I just love these like huge dramatic beans. I think they're delightful.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I've really been wanting to do that teepee style planting. I just can't think of the a good spot to do it. But yeah, that's I've been meaning to do that. Look, I've just spudged my journal and it does not matter if it gets mud on it, if it gets smudges on it, it does not matter at all. So what I did there was just go in and do those little extra flower parts in a darker color. I'm going to um, I'm going to come back up here now and um, darken up darken up the petals on this. This is a snow pea, actually. Oh, snow peas are another favorite. I really love
Mm.
them, and they're such a great thing. My child is a little bit vegetable averse, as a lot of kids
I
are.
have one of those too.
But he will eat snow peas um, straight off the plant, which is a really joyful thing to see.
Yeah, mine too. Snow peas and snap peas are favorites. So
That's beautiful.
very kiddo accessible.
So I live in community again with the community. I live with my whole family. So we have three generations, and my only child son is growing up with cousins as siblings, and so I have a lot of people who enjoy the garden with me. But one of them is the one who enjoys it the most is my little niece, and she's 3 years old, and she, as I said, I garden mostly in the afternoons. Um, after she gets back for the day, she'll come out and she says, "Can I help you?" And she stands there and she'll eat the beans with me, and yeah, it's a joy.
Oh, that just sounds idyllic, Bethan.
Yeah, it really is. I think living in our own little, boxes very small separate family units is it hasn't worked for us. And so being all together, it makes us more resilient, and yeah, it's good.
I've got a question for you. I noticed in your journal,
Hmm.
um, you had some really wonderful shadows under a lot of your plants that you added, and I was wondering if you
Yeah,
had like a favorite color shadow or any tips
yeah.
for folks to think about shadows. And even I'm looking at the pea leaves you're sketching, and your
Mm,
careful use of shadow is really giving it dimension.
mm. I think shadow is really important for let me go back to that page with the I'm thinking of the page with the seeds. So these are my nasturtium seeds, and the shadow helps them pop off the page. I think that that's just really fun, and yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that. So there's some ways to make shadow, but my favorite one is to mix up. Let's do it together here. I just mix up an orange, any kind of orange. And then I add ultramarine. So orange and ultramarine just make a really lovely warm shadow color. Um, and it's really quick, and I'll put it here. That's what I usually use, a mixed orange and an ultramarine, and it just makes a really lovely gray. And then you can skew it one way or the other. So if you want to make warm shadows, um, you can just make it a bit warmer with a little bit of extra red. And if you want to make it a cool shadow, you just add a little bit of extra blue there. And um, I think that's my go-to shadow color. Yeah. Do you have a favorite way to make shadows?
I think the neutral you described is wonderful of mixing your own warm or cool grays. Sometimes I like a little purplish shadow too. Um, and I appreciate that the addition of a shadow can really add dimension. And
Yes.
so especially with some of your objects, how you've added that in your journal as you were showing us, makes them feel like you could just pick them up off the page.
Hmm. Another tip is, say, for example, if you're doing a yellow flower, the shadows can be the opposite, which is purple. So having shadows in the opposite color can make it really pop. Um, so very subtle purple leaning shadows in on a yellow. flower is really good. I'm just adding some depth here. We can even add a background to some of these or leave it as it is, but we could. So it's lovely to, I'll show you my other one here. So you can see I've added, some of them have a background, some of them don't. But yeah, this is just a way of celebrating what's in the garden and giving a little snapshot of what's in the garden at that point. I'm going to add a little shadow on this flower because the white painting white flowers is an interesting challenge in itself.
Mm.
But really, color mixing, I've come to understand that it is just a little back and forward dance between the primaries, and sometimes you overshoot and sometimes you get it spot on, but don't be afraid to just do the dance back and forward. And the more you do it, the more fun it becomes, and also just the more intuitive and easy it becomes. One of my favorite sort of party tricks is to have someone point to a color on the table or wherever in nature, and then just mix up that color, It's
Mm.
it's a really fun thing.
That's something I've talked about and always recommend to folks in my workshops is you can practice even just noticing colors around you if
Yeah.
you don't have your palette with you. And my husband even included that in our wedding vows of, oh, I like that you'll look up to the sky and see yellow ochre and alizarin crimson and
Yeah.
ultramarine blue. But it's like a nice chance just to engage with that sort of visual part of your brain, even if, you might not have your sketchbook with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Or another fun game is and this is really great with young kids, is pointing out and noticing how many different colors there are on one thing. So you might pick up a leaf and say, oh, this is a green leaf. But then actually when you start to look, there's multitudes of greens in that one thing, and you can play it out by doing color swatches, or you can just notice, and just even taking the time to notice all the different greens in one green leaf is a really fun thing to do, and it becomes a bit of a mindfulness exercise. So I'm going to put the date, because I told you never, ever, ever
I was thinking
about
of
the date.
that.
Um,
Oh.
and I'm thinking of different fun ways to add the date. So I do like to stack up the date like that. I think it's really cute. But I've been thinking of other ways to put the date. So I'm going to do it like this today. And I know that you're on the 2nd of March, but I'm on the 3rd. Sorry, it's April. Is it really April?
It is. It is. It's April.
I just started drawing March.
Right. You are in the future.
Yeah, the future is raining.
Well, see, I was going to say, it seems like the future so far has nature journaling. So I'm going to move forward with some confidence.
So whatever way you want to put the date, just make sure. I've just done this really messily now because I was planning to write March. But anyway, add the date, because you'll thank yourself later. And yeah, are there any questions?
On the date note, I was curious when you do your stack, do you do like month over a day over a year for the
Yes,
little?
I think we do dates differently here.
Oh, that's
Um,
true.
so I always say 03, 04, 25. So we do the day and then the month.
And then you put
And
it in
then
your little box.
it's cute to do it like that. And then you can color it in, add a bit of extra element. Oh, the other thing that I love to do, um, beside the date is to just put some weather information. So out there it's raining, and so I'm just going to put a little um, a little symbol to represent that. Um, but you can actually describe, you can write a big description. You can say it's raining, it's everything is sodden. You can get into the language of it if you want. And the beautiful thing about this is you can lean, I know that there's a bit of a um, of obviously an art leaning in the art toolkit community, but this can be accessible to anyone, whether they have an art background or not, because you can lean on writing and uh, descriptions and that sort of thing. Um, it doesn't have to be entirely art based, and in fact, I think it shouldn't be. I think um, the more you can lean on words and let words uh, do what pictures can't for you in your journal, the richer your journals are going to be.
Oh, well,
Um, yeah,
Bethan, I've just realized our time has
yeah.
just flown. This has been incredibly delightful. I have been sketching right along, and I know many participants have too. And I wonder if we might just bring our faces back up,
Yeah,
and you can tell us a little bit just of how to stay connected and continue to
yeah,
follow your work. Um, and this has been such a delight. I'll give you a peek at what I've been sketching
yeah.
too.
I'd love to see it.
And I want to encourage anyone who's watched along to, if you'd like to share your sketches with us, to
Mm.
post the
Yeah.
socials and tag us both, or to send it to hello at Art Toolkit. It's a total treat. So Beth and I had some fun sketching in my little sketchbook too. So
I love
thank
it. It's
you
come
so
together so
much.
well. The cornflower with its the like textured display coming out to the side. It looks so great.
Well, I just loved the breaking the box
Yeah.
and drawing your plant first and then the box is one of my little takeaways, and just the freedom of all the different ways that you've encouraged us just to approach this is so lovely. And yeah, what are the different ways, things you've got going on to stay connected?
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Maria. So Journaling with Nature is my business name. Journalingwithnature.com is where you'll find me the most. That's my website. But on social media, I am on Instagram mostly. I'm also on Facebook under at Journaling with Nature. But I would love if you're interested to be involved in International Nature Journaling Week. So that's naturejournalingweek.com, and you'll find all the amazing speakers and prompts and a huge wealth of information at naturejournalingweek.com from all the years that we've been doing it. We've been doing it since 2020, and all the previous years are there. So that's a resource that you can tap into anytime, but it's coming up 1st to the 7th of June. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'd love to connect with you all. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing this moment. I'm very, very passionate about gardens and garden journaling, and so it feels beautiful to share this with you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And we've got all of Bethan's links in the description of this video. We'll have the recording up. It'll be available at the same link, and we'll have a blog post on our website shortly. So if you've missed part of this or want to come back and revisit for inspiration, we have this here. And everyone who's joined us live, thank you so much for being here. We just so appreciate you all, and Bethan, just friends far and wide. Really grateful to all be together and help share inspiration. And what's that you said? I'm going to say it one more time because I love that so much. We're not striving for perfection, we're striving for connection and connection, creativity, community. So thank you, and enjoy the
Thank
rest
you.
of your day, everybody.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks everyone for being here.
Yep, bye.
Bye.
Yay!
That was
Oh, that
so
was
good.
so
We did
lovely.
it.
That just